Hi everybody, welcome to another Fun in 5. Today I'm bringing you Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. So this is the card game evolution, I guess, or change on the original Terraforming Mars. Now I've never played the original game, but I ordered this one on Kickstarter because I heard many great things about this game from previewers, in addition to how much hype I guess there is about the original game. I just didn't want that extra... I didn't want to have to buy both games, and I heard a lot of good things about this, so I thought, if I'm going to dive in, now's my chance. So let me tell you about why I like Terraforming Mars. Now, keep in mind, I bought the Kickstarter edition, so there might be a couple additional perks. I think there's a couple extra cards I got, and then these fancy little storage trays. But beyond that, I think the retail edition is going to be exactly the same. Alright, so what do I like about it? First off, I like that this is a true semi-co-op game. So it's not a co-op game because somebody has to win the game. But it is a semi-co-op because both players, if you're playing a 2-player game like I did, or all players, if you're playing a 4-player game, are working towards the same goal of trying to terraform Mars, trying to make it habitable, trying to get the oxygen level to the right level, trying to get the temperature up above 8 degrees, and trying to create enough water so that the planet is sustainable for all of us beings who want to escape Earth and live there. So I thought the premise is very neat. But the semi-co-op part of it is that we're all trying to accomplish that goal. We're all trying to raise the oxygen, raise the heat, and create water and forests. And you're kind of forced to do it as the game progresses, because as you get those resources, sometimes you don't have a choice but to use them. There are many ways that you can dodge that with certain cards and abilities, but the semi-co-op aspect of it is that you're all evolving the planet while at the same time trying to earn victory points so that when the planet is habitable, when you reach the game end and all three of those criteria are met, somebody does win the game. And then there's a tiebreaker as well. If they have the same amount of points, then it's whoever has the most resources on their board. And so I just think it's a really neat thing that you're always thinking about while you're playing especially in the later, you're 75% of the way through the game and you're just watching the board and seeing how many people are still trying to develop and get cards that'll get them more points, and what people are trying to really just nail up those three things and end the game before you have a chance to grow your points. So you have to keep that balance in mind when you're playing semi-co-ops. You're thinking about the end game as a whole, but then you're thinking about your own end game, and can I squeeze in a few more points before that end game happens. Second thing I like is about resource management. So in this game you have resources of all kinds. I'll show you on the board here, but you have mega credits. You have your cards are a resource, the cards that you have in your hand, and you're going to get cards, plenty of them throughout the game. That's why the deck is gargantuan. You're going to get heat, which helps you obviously raise the heat of the planet. You get plant life, which helps you grow forests, which helps you increase the oxygen. And then you have not necessarily resources, but you have the ability to grow your space exploration or your ground-based engineering to make a lot of your cards cheaper. So you're massaging all of these on your board, all these different resources. You're planning around, deciding what I want to develop to grow higher, what do I want to just leave the same and salvage what I can. So that resource management and board development is really, really neat to play with, and I've enjoyed it every time I played. I think I've played this about 6 times already since we got it, and I look forward to playing it again. The third thing I like is the phase choice mechanism. Now again, I've only played this 2-player, and this game does play 1 to 4. So if you play 4 players, you can imagine it'll get a bit more complex. But what happens is each player secretly chooses a card from their hand. They have 5 phase cards, and they're going to pick one. And let's say this player wants to do research, they'll put it upside down. Then the other player will do the same thing, or at the same time, maybe this player wants to do development. So they put them face down, and that is the phases that are going to be played this round. So we would slide over or flip over the research or development and the research. The other 3 phases would not happen this turn. And so those other 3 phases are construction, action, and production, all of which are very important. But in this particular round of play, both players are going to develop and both players are going to research. And if you've ever played a game called Puerto Rico, you know there's something called the governor, and that person always gets a perk if they chose that particular card. And so this has a similar mechanism where if I chose development, I then get a discount on what I develop, and my opponent doesn't. And if I chose research, all players get to draw 2 cards and discard 1, but the player who played this phase gets to draw an additional 3 cards and keep an additional card. So there's always a benefit to picking the phase. You get a little perk out of the deal. Now, if both players happen to pick the same phase, so if we both picked development, then we both get that perk. But then there's only one phase for us each to have, so you don't get the same phase twice. But again, what I like about the phases is you have to really plan out what I want to do this turn. And the other thing you have to keep in mind is whatever phase I play this turn, I cannot play that phase card again on my next turn. So if you think that your opponent is going to play cards that you would have played, you might choose intentionally not to research, hoping they're going to research, so that you can play another card that you can activate that phase. And so there's a bit of thinking and strategizing going on as to when do I want to enact each phase, when am I ready to produce, did I build enough that I can produce a lot of resources and then I can buy things on my next turn. You really have to think about those things. And I love that thinky aspect of the game. These phase cards really add that element of planning and timing to a very keen level, I would say. All right, fourth thing I like is developing and building a balance of cards. So I talked about the board and the resources. Your entire board is developed through the cards that you earn. So throughout the game, you're going to be drawing cards from this Terraforming Mars project deck. You're going to be building these projects. So this one I might have adapted lichen. And so when I pay for this card with mega credits during the development phase, where I put that card. So green cards I can play on a development phase. Then I could play that, and I would give myself a permanent plant. So I'd grow my plant track so that when I do a production round in the future, then I will be growing an extra plant. And so you're going to be doing a lot of developing. I think the games that I played, I've had upwards of 20 to 25 cards on the board. Some of them are green, which are basically developing your board for the most part. Some of them are blue. A lot of the blue cards give you perks to card drawing and perks to points. I think you get a lot of points from the blue cards, from what I've seen. And then the red cards are kind of world-like disastrous events or amazing events that happen. And so, for example, here we basically smash a missile or a bomb into the planet, and we are allowed to raise the temperature 3 steps and gain 7 mega credits. So big red events. And so trying to balance, how much do I want to develop? When do I want to start going for blue? Do I need the icons that are all over these cards to match up to get me some more points? Do I want to get cards that will give me a discount on space or the ground and then purchase those later on? There's a lot of things to consider when you're deciding what to do. And it's just interesting to balance those out. And I'm still learning the game, but from the 6 games that I've played, I've really enjoyed developing the base and then growing some blue and trying to hit some red in the late game and just try to impact the board. Sometimes you're creating that water and you get little perks. There's lots of little things that happen in the game. So that's 4 is developing and building a balance of cards. Your development, your blue kind of technology, and your red events are kind of what I nickname. I know there's different names in the book. But that's the 4th thing. The 5th thing I like is that there are tons of card combinations. And so it starts off with the corporations. Each player gets one random corporation, or the way we play is you deal a certain amount out and you get to pick one of those corporations. But that corporation gives you a certain starting amount of mega credits. It might give you certain parts on your track that are higher than others. And it might give you a permanent effect that happens the whole game, like getting a discount on green cards, or when playing cards, you can consider the oxygen or temperature one color higher or lower, which is very impactful because as you heat up the earth, certain cards become enabled. Some cards you can't actually use unless you're at a certain temperature, like white or yellow, or a certain oxygen, like purple or red. or a certain amount of ocean tiles have to be flipped over before you can play some of these cards. So I like that certain cards have combinations, and you may be building up an end game strategy by trying to time those things with your cards. But the other thing I like is that there are many cards that give you points based on symbols too. So for example, there's a card here that says you get a point at the end of the game for every proton icon you have, or it's an icon with proton symbol or whatever that is. So you might intentionally be trying to draw and find cards that give you more of those icons to put on your board, which also tend to happen to combo with other cards that have that icon. So you end up building an engine or a combination of cards that help benefit you and have the chance to win. So that's the fifth thing I like. There's lots of other things I'm learning and liking about this game. I think it's really intriguing. This card game version of Terraforming Mars is probably the only version I'm going to play. I know the original Terraforming Mars does have an expansion, and there's things to like about that. But this certainly tickles my fancy for the space exploration and world development game that is Terraforming Mars. So if there's things that you like about the original game that you think this game is missing, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Or if you've liked this game, by all means, let me know. Thank you for watching another Fun in 5, and have a great day.